When I was a student at Berklee, I had the opportunity to, just from access standpoint, to share stages with like Brian McKnight and Chili of TLC, and most recently Patti LaBelle. I don't know, like that's crazy, right?
Wild. Welcome to Gritty History, a podcast from the City of Hamilton and Hamilton Civic Museums, taking you beyond the physical museums and diving into the fascinating stories from the city's past and present. In this audio series, we'll explore the people and places that make Hamilton, Ontario so special. Our first series, Liner Notes, digs into the work of Hamilton music. My name is Meredith Leonard, and I'm a senior curator at Hamilton Civic Museums. Joining me for this series is Russ Piva, aka Stereo Russ, musician and host of Inside the Music with Stereo Russ. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's press play.
Today we're joined by Dejehan Hamilton, professionally known as Luckystickz. He's the founder and executive director of the TuneIn Foundation, which provides music education, providing opportunities such as artist development, leadership summits, volunteer programs, and artist showcases. Dejehan is an international award-winning speaker, recording artist, songwriter, and musician. As the first Canadian steel-paying graduate on scholarship at Berklee College of Music, he's living proof of how perseverance can turn challenges into opportunities. We feel so lucky to have him here today with us at CFMU Studios. Dejehan, thanks so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me. An amazing introduction. I was almost like, who's he talking about? And I love the little Lucky that you slipped in there. Yeah, that was cute.
Yeah, I'm sure I wasn't the first to ever do that one.
So Dejehan, you were one of the first people we chatted with when we were starting research for this exhibition, and your enthusiasm for Hamilton's music community was infectious. It was so inspiring. Can you share a little bit about your own journey and sort of what brought you to a career in music?
Yeah, well, once again, kudos on this amazing exhibit and idea. I think it's super important for us to recognize music in the city and the rich history of music in the city. It really is part of the cultural fabric of Hamilton. My journey started in the north end of Hamilton. I grew up on a street called Francis Street, near Burlington Street. There wasn't a lot of people in my neighborhood who were musicians or exposed to the music scene. But I always say that music chose me. And I feel as though I knew from a very young age that that's what I wanted my life to consist of in some way. Right. So grew up in the church. I went to a church called Hamilton Church of God. It was a Pentecostal church. So I grew up around instruments and music and charismatic, worship environments, which also really helped to hone that passion that was innate within me to be a musician. So I would sit down there, and that was my first school. Like, that was my first music school, watching the drummer play, watching the keys play, watching the bass play, watching how they do dynamics and how they really build the energy around a moment, right? And watching the singers also lead from a praise and worship standpoint, and the same thing, how they really are able to move the crowd. So honestly, that was my first introduction to my musical journey, up to the point where I told my mom that I wanted to buy a drum set. I wanted a drum set for the house. And she was like, Dejehan, you don't know how to play drums. Like, where did you learn? You've never taken lessons.
So how old were you at the time?
At the time, I would have been probably 7 or 8 years old.
Yeah.
And there was a talent night at the church, and I signed up for the talent night to do a drum solo rendition, and ended up telling my mom, yeah, I'm doing this drum solo. So she was like, okay, I guess we're going to see if he can actually play drums or not. And I went and I played a solo. I don't remember how it went, but it was good enough to convince my mom to be like, oh, he can actually play. And okay, this is something that I'm going to invest in on his behalf. So I was super blessed and fortunate to have a parent who invested into my talent. So fast forwarding a few years after that, I was 11 years old, and I now was actively playing drums, but I needed a community to hone this talent and have other people to be able to play with. And my older brother had introduced me to this steel pan orchestra based here in Hamilton that was full of young people like me. We were all a couple years apart, and it was called the Hamilton Youth Steel Orchestra. And it fit so perfectly because my mom is from Trinidad and Tobago, my dad is from Jamaica, and the steel pan is from Trinidad. It's the national instrument of the country. So from a cultural perspective, it was the right fit. From a age perspective, it was also the right fit. And then just from a passion perspective, it was like, wow, I get to actually be a part of a band. So that was my first actual band experience. I went there to play drums. And because I just was a lover of music, a lover of instruments, I used to, the rehearsals were like 2 hours long. So they would have a 15-minute break in between. And during that 15 minutes, we could do whatever we want to do, socialize, eat, or continue practicing.
Yeah, right.
So I was like, okay, let me go over to the steel pan and start to doodle around on it. So there was another player who was the same age as me, and he was playing the tenor steel pan, which is actually the lead steel pan. That's the one that plays all of the melodies in the music. And he was drilling over on his own independently the song that we were learning. And I was like, can you show me how, like what you're doing, like what you're learning? So he showed me, and within that 15 minutes, I learned up to the part that the band was doing for the first 45 minutes, right? Little did I know, right, because I was just having fun. Little did I know the band organizers, Kathy and Karen, these are two phenomenal women in our community as well that deserve recognition, who started this steel pan orchestra to instill that social cohesion, but also having music as a tool, as a route to empower young people. They are basically, I guess, the archetypes from what I currently do right now. And they were watching myself and the other player run through this. They saw the progress, and then they were like, why do we have this kid on drum set? Like, let's put him on steel pan.
Yeah, you can do it.
But I was anti anything else drums.
Drums or bust.
It was, yes, exactly, right? So very narrow-minded at that time, but I'm a kid, right?
Yeah,
I'm 11,
course, 100%.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, anyways, they approached me and said, would you like to learn how to play the steel pan? And I was like, absolutely not. This was just for fun. I'm okay. Well, spoke to my mom about it, and my mom was like, it's not going to hurt you to learn another instrument. So that was how I ended up now adding the steel pan into my repertoire and fell in love with the steel pan, and then really became a full-fledged percussionist, playing both drums and the steel pan. My first gig with the steel pan orchestra on drum set was actually at Queen's Park. So they also gave me amazing opportunities along with the other young people to have that touring experience from a very early age, learning about stage performance, learning about all the things that I teach right now to others. That development started for me at 11 years old. Drum set started very early within the church realm as well. Started playing for the church band. And then, that led me to continuing music. I think my first steel pan gig when I got my own steel pan was somebody's wedding, which was a huge honor.
It's a big first gig.
It's a big first gig, right?
No pressure.
Absolutely. So yeah, I really had a community around me that nurtured me and invested into me, and yeah, really built that, like I said, that archetype that I currently have now to give back to other musicians.
The story is very similar for a lot of musicians and even non-musicians who are music fans. So like, you start on piano or you start on guitar, and then for some it becomes just a hobby. For some people it becomes a lifelong hobby. For some people it becomes their career.
Yep.
So at what point did you decide, I kind of want to do this?
I think, like I said, it chose me. So there was never a moment when I decided I wanted to do it. I felt like I always just knew I wanted to do it. Like I also saw it as a means to transitioning my family's situation. So grew up with a single mom, and it was my sister and myself who were kind of the younger ones in the house. And then my older brother, he was much older, so he was already out of the home when I was growing up. But yeah, we weren't like necessarily like we had food in the fridge, we had clothes on our back. My mom made a lot of sacrifices. She actually worked at McMaster University so that her foresight was that we would all be able to go to a McMaster on like for cheap or for free because she was a employee here. None of us went to McMaster. Sorry, Mom. Yeah, never worked out.
But that's the mentality she had.
That was the mentality that she had. And because we were in a lower income neighborhood and we didn't have the most, right? I saw music also as a vehicle to help my family perhaps, get out of our situation. So that was also another driving force in me deciding to say, I really want to do this. So I started to now dream bigger. I started to say, okay, well, now we're in the North End, but how are we going to get to New York or LA or like to the States? Like, how do we get to that next level? And mind you, I didn't even know what was available for me out there at that time, but I just knew that this would be able to change my environment and give me bigger opportunities if I took this seriously.
I think that's a very common thing for musicians. They know that there's opportunities, but there's no roadmap.
Right.
Everyone's story is kind of the same because it's a musician's journey, but everyone's journey is wildly different and unique. So I guess that kind of leads into the kind of work that you're doing. So do you mind sharing with everyone kind of what Tune In Foundation does and how it helps the community?
Yeah. So Tune In Foundation is a nonprofit organization based here in the beautiful city of Hamilton, Ontario. We believe that each and every single individual has a creative spark within them in some way. And we try to, tap into that by using the power of music, using creativity, and using leadership as those vehicles to ignite that purpose within every individual. So we run a number of programs through the Tune In Foundation. We started initially in 2015, and we were running a music camp for kids called Musicapalooza. And that was started with myself and a few buddies from Mohawk College, where I went for 1 year for their music program. And it grew into us being in 3 cities in Ontario. We were in Ottawa as well, and we had a camp out in Oakville. And we ran that camp for 10 years. And then eventually it evolved into us now working with emerging artists through a program called The Blueprint. And that's a 12-week artist development program where we teach literally from, I guess, the A to Z's within that 12 weeks of not only what it means to be a performer, but what it means to be a business, right? Because music is, if you want to say 80% business, right? And my background is in music business management. That's what my degree was in. So artist development is one of our initiatives, and then we do a lot of work with youth, right? So we have a program called The Plug, which is a volunteer program where we plug in young people into their community, and we marry the two together, making sure that they're not just being sent out there in the wild to volunteer, but we're connecting them to spaces such as this, where we're saying, hey, you can come and volunteer. I'll introduce you to Russ. And then outside of that, we do arts integrated assemblies. So we go to a number of schools throughout the year, and we use the story of the steel pan, the history of the steel pan, to actually teach resilience. And then the last part of what we do is we have something called the Future King Summit. And the Future King Summit is a male leadership, empowerment, mentorship program where we bring a whole bunch of young men in, and we bring in a whole bunch of other mentors as well, and we have a full day of just mentorship and tutoring and everything like that. So we are between the two landscapes of music and leadership, and we use creativity as that vehicle to kind of tie everything together.
This seems like the ultimate example of paying it forward, really. You sort of like saw a need and then used all of your knowledge and your experience to make the path a little easier for everybody else coming up.
Yes.
That's great. Is there other people and sort of who else is involved in like the day-to-day operations of the foundation?
Yeah, so we have 2 program assistants. We have Jasmine and Romay. So they are my left and right and left, wherever they want to stand. But they really are the engine that helps to keep all of these things going because I couldn't do it all by myself. We have an awesome board of directors as well who helps with the, high-level governance and strategic direction of the organization. So small team, but we're mighty.
Through this process of meeting so many people in the music industry, I've really been struck by how enthusiastic and supportive everybody is of each other and just of the industry itself, like the efforts to like expand that circle and bring more people into music in a variety of ways. For you, what makes Hamilton's music scene unique?
I think that what makes our city unique, our music scene unique, is that we are a city with a small town vibe. Therefore, it's much easier to an extent of like what we're trying to really craft with the blueprint is crafting that infrastructure, that ecosystem of musicians who are working together, supporting one another, and championing one another, which helps to then build a more robust industry. So what makes us unique is that we have the more tight-knit communities within the music scene, which allows us to then be able to collaborate, which then allows us to be able to build and sharpen one another. They say as iron sharpens iron, right? So because now we are working together, because then you also now get into this healthy competition because now you see somebody doing something amazing, they're inspiring you, you're inspiring them, and now we're both elevating together. So I really think that that's what sets us apart or what makes us unique as a music city is that even with the challenges that we currently have, we are also able to come together and say, okay, well, how can we work together to, overcome these challenges that we face, which may be harder in a bigger city or a more dense scene where people might be a lot more scattered.
What advice do you give to people who want to get into music as a career?
The advice I give to any person who wants to get into music is to continue to study your craft. There are amazing, go to school, and it doesn't have to be, formalized school, but really go to school on your own. There's so many resources online that we have. You can watch performance tapes, you can listen to podcasts, you can read books, whatever it is that you want to get into, whether it's through performance, through production, through engineering, through business. There's so many resources that are available to us, essentially for free, right? And get a mentor. So those would be my 2 things that I would say. Like have a mentor that can teach you. Every teacher had a teacher, right? As well as really study your craft.
If you're enjoying this conversation, you might want to check out the Punching In exhibition, which explores the work of Hamilton's music scene, on display at the Visitor Experience Center, located at 28 James Street North, throughout 2026. Now, back to our conversation.
There's the education via YouTube. That's very common. Tell us the value of a mentor.
So yeah, the value of a mentor is having, literally mentor is just someone who has the experience and has done it before, right? They have made mistakes and they have had successes and they could help to develop what's already inside of you, right? Each and every single one of us has that, that spark inside of us, but they can help to hone that and craft that and develop that and guide it. It's molding, right? It's as if you are clay and you have the person who's just, molding you into the amazing piece of art that you are becoming, right? So I think that's the main value is to make sure having somebody who has done it before you to guide you through the roller coasters, the ups and downs, the pitfalls. Somebody to be able to say, hey, you're going to actually experience the highs and you're going to experience the lows. When you're in the highs, this is how you ride that wave. When you're in the lows, this is how you sustain until you can get back to the highs. That's priceless, right? To be able to have that. So university YouTube is great for information, but university experience, having that mentor who can guide you through is invaluable.
And one thing I notice about in the arts is that there are highs and there are lows. So, maybe not getting too detailed, but like in the arts, like what are some highs? What are some lows that we're speaking about?
Yeah, I think the highs are definitely when you see your dreams coming true, right? If it's performance-wise, you're getting to perform with people who maybe you idolized or looked up to, who have been inspirational to your journey, to your musical journey. So that is some of the highs. Or you just released your first EP or your record, or you hear your song on the radio, or you get to work, if you are in production, you get to work with an artist who you've always wanted to work with. Those are the highs of the highest. You see your name on the credits of a project that you're really proud of. The lows is that self-doubt, right? We end up being our biggest critics. Oftentimes, the work never seems like it's good enough. It never seems like it's ready. We're not sure how people are going to receive it or receive us. And those are those low moments. There's the moments of even like financial instability, right? Like, okay, can I keep doing this? Can I keep sustaining this? There's also those lows of coming off of the highs, coming off of a stage or a platform or a recognition, and then maybe having to go back and to the Amazon warehouse, right? To make the money to keep doing what you love. So I think that, from a high and low standpoint, it's just about understanding balance and figuring out how to keep those dreams alive, and recognizing that success is so different for everybody. The measure of success, like really just define it for yourself. Have your own definition of what success looks like to you, but also be kind to yourself, right? Be kind to yourself, be fair to yourself was also what I was going to say. And understand that the highs and lows are all part of the journey. It's what makes this journey beautiful. And there's this musician, his name is Larnell Lewis. He's a Grammy Award-winning drummer, right?
Yeah, love Larnell.
So Larnell,
Toronto, he's Toronto-based.
From Toronto, right? Larnell grew up in the same church organization, right? So I watched Larnell as like he's older than me, but as a young man himself, as a teen, when he was there, really developing and becoming who the world knows him to be now. And I had the opportunity to have many conversations with him as a youngster and saying like, how do I do this? How do I do this music thing? And he said, you just really have to love it. Meaning that love it through the hard, right? Love it through all of the different parts of it, the good, the easy, the hard, the unsure. Just really, if you love it, that will help to sustain you and carry you through.
Looking back on your career, both as a musician and an educator, are there any sort of memorable moments that really embody what you do, or that have really stuck with you, that sort of keep fueling what you do, or have just like been an inspiration in your practice?
Absolutely. I think from multiple standpoints, from my own professional career as an artist, I've had the opportunity to play, on main stages of festivals that I always wanted. I know from a local standpoint, I wanted to play Supercrawl, and I had the opportunity to do that. In Toronto, we played Afrofest and all of those things when I was a student at Berklee. I had the opportunity to, just from access standpoint, to share stages with like Brian McKnight and Chili of TLC, and most recently Patti LaBelle. I don't know, like that's crazy, right?
Wild.
Love that.
And then just from like administrative standpoint, through the TuneIn Foundation, I really enjoy the ability to see emerging artists who many of them have had their own journey in music already. Some of them have even won Junos in certain categories already, but that spark died for them. And being able to see that they were able to come into a program that reignited that spark, supported them in the areas where they felt like they had roadblocks or had plateaued, and seeing them now back out there living their dreams once again, those are highlight moments for me when I was working with the kids through Musicapalooza, seeing kids come in not knowing how to play a lick of anything, and within 2 weeks of working with them, they're performing in front of their parents, they're performing in front of their families, and their, confidence has increased, everything, So those are, I guess, some of the high moments and highlights in my journeys thus far.
What age groups do you normally work with?
We used to work with youth 7 to 14. That was what Musicapalooza focused on in terms of our age group. We now take on the artists from the journey of them probably being more in the 19 and up range. So we are now working with like emerging and mid-career artists. So how do you get involved with the programming that we do? So Blueprint applications open in, I believe it's February. They close in March. So it's usually about a month of application time. You apply online, you submit, all the things in the application. We do a quick little interview with you just to learn about your journey. And then you are selected from a panel if you're going to be a part of the program. The program only has cohorts of 10 at the moment. So unfortunately, some people have to wait maybe another year, but it also gives them time to develop even more. So we take you on from a point of, we want to kind of see that you've done a little bit of work and that you're serious about your journey, and then we will come along and partner with you to hopefully be able to take you to the next level.
Yeah, because I know that the amount of effort and resources you're putting into it, like you want to make sure that the people on the other side are also going to take advantage of that.
Absolutely. Right. Exactly. Because part of it is we also want to see that you are going to continue afterwards with all the resources that have been put into you, that our ROI is not your money, because it's a free program, by the way.
Nice. Good plug.
Yeah. But our ROI is in seeing you put into action all of the development that you've picked up from the program. So we just did our 2025 year snapshot, and the stats were amazing. And when it came to the amount of hours, I think each artist received 180 hours of mentorship, and the value of what each artist received was, if they were to pay for this, it would have been like a $5,600 program, right? So from all the facilitators and everything that they received, there's paid performance opportunities that artists receive from being a part of the program. We just had Fresh Up Fest and Blueprint collaboration a couple weeks ago. It was amazing. And that was a paid performance opportunity that comes out of 4 artists who are chosen from the Blueprint. And then all throughout this year, there was different performance opportunities around the city. We had something called Soundtrack of the City, which was a collaboration with the city of Hamilton. We had Soul Sessions, which was a collaboration with the Hamilton Farmers Market and Black Owned. We had Common Threads, which was a collaboration. So we had a whole bunch of collaborations and just performance opportunities, and we continue to just provide platforms for these artists to grow and thrive and put into practice what they've learned.
And if people are looking for more information about TuneIn, the foundation, the program, where can they find that?
They can find it on our website at tuneinfoundation.org. People don't say www anymore, do they? Yeah? No? Yeah.
You can now.
Yeah?
We can.
www. tuneinfoundation.org. You can also follow us on our Instagram at TuneInFoundation. We're on Facebook, but yeah, you can find the bulk of our information on those 2 platforms.
Being that you're someone who grew up in the North End and you're in the throes of it, the amount of work you're doing, you're performing, you're doing all this, do you ever take a step back and just kind of reflect on kind of your life in music in Hamilton?
I'm extremely grateful. I'm extremely lucky, right? To be able to do this. But I think that, yeah, it's not lost on me. I recognize when I had the opportunity to go to Berklee College of Music, because again, I didn't even know Berklee existed the year before I went. Right, I was at Mohawk College. I was already, I think, 18 at the time or 19 at the time, and I thought I loved music and knew what I wanted to do in the pathways. And it wasn't until I got to Mohawk College when there was other students who were speaking about, oh, do you know about this player or this musician or this person? They went to Berklee, and I was like, "What's Berklee?" And they all looked at me like I had 10 heads. They're like, "Are you sure that you're a musician? Like, how don't you know about Berklee?" So getting into the school was great. I'm in Boston. I'm at this institution, and I'm now thinking to myself, it's happening. It's really happening. And then there was the next moment where I was like, there's probably a whole bunch of other young people who grew up in the North End like me or wherever they're growing up like me who don't know about the access, who don't know that this exists and that this is possible for them. And if I'm the only one getting to experience it, then that's not good enough for me. I want to be able to go back and let everybody else know that, yo, this is an opportunity. This is something that, you could be a part of. So that's where Musicapalooza was born. That's where Tune In Foundation was born. It was to go back to my community and spread the word and create access and create opportunities so that other people can have their Berklee moment whatever that, looks like for them.
This always feels like an unfair question. But just being in the Hamilton music scene, do you have any favorite artists you're listening to now? Any artists that have come up through your program that you'd like to hype? Who should people take a listen to if they're looking for local talent?
Okay, to be fair, I can't answer the question like that because I feel like all of the people who've come through the Blueprint are like my children, right? And this is like asking who's your favorite child out of all.
You can't choose.
On record, I can't choose. I just want to encourage everyone who's listening to this to really go out there and support the local artists in the city. Go out to their shows, right? Listen to their music online and just really embrace that we have so much rich talent here. We have so many incredible, talented people, producers, artists, singers, songwriters, etc. So I will reframe this question to say that they're all my favorite. And I highly encourage everyone to support, all of your local artists in the city.
And with 2026 being the year of music in Hamilton, there's so much happening. So there's so many opportunities to go see a small show, to go see a big concert, to connect with music industry professionals. So if you're interested, if you're looking at this as your career, I definitely encourage you to just get out into the city. And everyone is so lovely and so welcoming. And I think it's a great place to get started in a music career.
Anything else you'd like to share?
I just want to thank you guys for having me and thank you for this exhibit and thank you for this opportunity to share our stories and to highlight the amazing industry and the people who make up this industry in the city. It's encouraging, right? It's encouraging to know that there's people who care about what we're doing here in Hamilton and that there are people who want to hear these stories and want to invest into the industry in different ways, whether it's just by, sharing stories or coming out to shows So I really want to thank you both for having me here and keep encouraging everyone to keep supporting music in Hamilton.
Yeah, and thank you for such an inspirational conversation, not only for musicians, but I think anyone working in the creative field. There's been so many wonderful pieces that I've heard, and I was like, oh yeah, that connects to me working in the arts as well. So thank you for your generosity in sharing your experience as well as your thoughts for the future.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Gritty History Podcast, brought to you by the City of Hamilton and Hamilton Civic Museums. This episode was hosted by Meredith Leonard and Russ Piva, produced and edited by Stereo Russ Media. Original music by Emma Whale. This series' episodes were recorded at CFMU Studios at McMaster University, Catherine North Studios, and Bridgeworks. If you enjoyed listening, please share this podcast with someone who loves all things Hamilton and history. Please rate, review, and subscribe. If you'd like to explore more, you can visit us online at hamiltoncivicmuseums.ca. Thank you for listening.